Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this Arduino programming tutorial. In this video I'm going to cover the introduction to functions. So as of now we've covered already the Arduino basics, and then we've covered how you can use Arduino as a calculator, then finally how can you use Arduino with other electronics like LED. So now let's get started with the introduction to functions. So what will be the learning outcomes? First of all, you will recognize the structure and the syntax for defining a function. Then you will identify the importance of using functions when writing a code. Then finally you will write a code using function in TinkerCAD. So what is function? So a function is a block of statements that perform a simple task. So as you can see here, function take a single or multiple inputs, process the inputs here, and then return an output value. So for example here, the function x square, you input 0, it gives you 0. 1, and then here 1 square is equal to 1. 2 square, it will be 4. 4 square, the answer here, you can predict it, it is 16. So in computer programming, a function is a block of code that performs a specific task or operation. So now let's answer the following questions. First of all, what is meant by functions in programming? So as we discussed, a function is a group of instructions for a specific task. When should you define a function? Or in other words, what is the importance of using function? So if you have a code and this code is repeated more than once in the program, you can use function. If the code can be more readable if you use the function, then you can use function. If the code becomes more manageable with functions, if the program requires to reuse a piece of code, so then we can use function. So now let's have a full understanding why you should use functions and what is the importance of function. For example, this question here, you have been asked to write a code for the following program. So you are taking care of your grandmother. She needs to take her medicine 4 times a day, 8 a.m., 12 p.m., 5 p.m., and then finally 9 p.m. So your task will involve all of these steps. Okay, first of all, you have to wash your hand, take out the medicine from the fridge, filling a cup of water, checking if your grandmother is awake, giving her the medicine, putting back the medicine in the fridge. So this task you have to do every time at 8 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So if you don't have the privilege of writing a function, so this is how your code will look like. At 8 a.m. you will write all these tasks. Then again 12 p.m. all of these tasks again. 5 p.m. again. 9 p.m. again. But if you have a function, you just can take all of this, put it under one title called a function. So as you can see here, I just take all of these tasks, give them a name, medicine, and then each time, instead of using all of these tasks, I will just call the function. So here, if 8 a.m., then I will just write one line. This one line means all of these steps here. So this 2 line here is equivalent to this block. 5 p.m. here is equivalent to this. So as you can see, it's really easier when you use functions. So as a starter here, what are the 2 main functions in Arduino? So those 2 main functions, you cannot write any code without them. What they are? So void setup and void loop. Okay, what are the difference between them? I already covered this in the previous lesson. So there are 4 main aspects of a function to consider. First of all, you have the data type, okay, which is here integer, and here for our main 2 functions, void, which means that the function returns nothing. Okay, then we have the function name, then we have the parameters, and then finally the body. So I'll explain every aspect in details, but before that, let's solve this question. Here you have a function, this function called summation, start with integer, and here you can see float x, float y, and then float z, and here is the body. Okay, so the first question is what the type of the function, what is the type of the function? As you can see here, it's very clear, it's integer, since it's int, start with int, so this is the data type, which is integer. The second question, the name of the function, so the second word is the name, which is summation. And then finally, how many parameters must be passed to the function when used? The parameters is actually the one inside this bracket. So as you can see here, 1, 2, and then finally 3. There is 3 parameters. So how to write a functions in Arduino? So to write a function in Arduino, you have to understand its structure. Okay, so first of all, you have to understand the function data type. What is the function data type? As you can see here, the basics function, the data type of it is void and void. Okay, as you can see, void here is the data type of our main function. In this example, what would be the data type? It's clear that integer here is the data type. So there are different type of data type. It could be void, as you can see here in our basics function. It could be integer, as this example. It could be fraction. If it's fraction, you will write float. If it's character, you will write character. If it's Boolean data, you will just write POOL. So this is actually the same as if you are going to introduce variable. You have to know what is the data type. It's exactly the same, except that you need to have void if your function will not return any data. And then the second step, you have to know the function name. Okay, what is function name? And you have to give a name to your function. Okay, and this and our basics two main functions, they are already fixed, setup and loop. You cannot change their name. But if you want to write your own function, you can put any name you want, but there is a specific restrictions or rules you have to put into consideration when writing a function. Okay, or when giving a name. So first of all, it should be characters from A to Z, A to Z, capital or small, from 0 to 9. Okay, it may include underscore and underscore, it's fine, but you cannot start with a number when giving a name to your function. Must be different from existing function's name, so you cannot call it setup again, or you cannot call another function called loop. So it should have unique names. Then should not include spaces or special characters like this one. And you have to know the function name is case sensitive. Okay, as you can see, set up here and loop, this is the name functions of our basics function. And this example here, what do you think is the function name? I think it's clear, it is the multiplication. So this is the name of our function. Okay, the third things you have to understand is the parameters. Okay, the parameters here is what is inside those brackets. In our main function, here is where the parameters are written. Okay, in our main function, usually the parameters or the variables are introduced in the beginning of the code, but in your function you have to write them inside the parameters here. So the parameters here are the inputs. Okay, so x and y, and then when calling the function, you just write the name or the numbers that you want to put. So here, what do you think? Where is the parameters? It's clear that's x and y. And as you can see, it's introduced with the variable or the data type here as well. Finally, the body of a function. As you can see here, the body of the function is the code that you are writing in your functions. So the body of a function defines the purpose of the function. It includes the set of instructions to be executed whenever the function is used. The body of the function is enclosed between two curly brackets, as you can see. Okay, so here, as you can see, this curly brackets starting from here till here, and here is the body function. So now how we can call a function. So let's apply it on the same example that we have used from the beginning of this video. So this is a function here, starting from the data type and then the name of the function. Here are the parameters and here is the body of the function. So if I want to use this function, I don't have to repeat it each time, right? I just have to write a simple line, and this simple line will collect all of this data. So how we can do this? It's simply by writing the function name and then passing the parameters inside. So for example, here in this function we do have the multiplication as a function name, right? So I will just put it here. This is the function name, okay, and then I will pass the parameters here. So you have x and y and they should be integers, right? Here the parameters should be integers, so whatever number you can put here. So in this example it's 5 and 7. So the Arduino will work as a calculator and will give you the value. 5 multiplied by 7 is 35. Okay, it will give you the answer. If you just do this, it will give you the answer. Okay, if you change the number here, it will do the process and it will give you different answer. And that's it. One last thing we have to put into consideration is where to call this function, or where to write this line of code to call the function. Actually, you just can call it inside the setup if you want it to be only once, and inside loop function if you want it to be repeated. So now let's go to TinkerCAD and write a code using function. Now let's apply the same example here and let's apply it on TinkerCAD. To start any code in Arduino programming, you should start with two main functions, which are void setup and void loop. So let's start with writing the main two functions here. Void set up, then this bracket and then the curly bracket, and void loop, this curly bracket, this bracket and the curly bracket. Okay, and now we have to write our own function. Our own function here is a multiplication function. Okay, so what will be the data type? It will be integer int, and then I will give it a name, multiplication. Okay, and then here I have to pass my parameters, and here I have to write the body. Okay, so what will be the parameters here? I want this function to multiply only two numbers. Okay, so I have to define two variables, int, let's give it a name, let's say x, and int y. Okay, here is the body, here where I have to write the task exactly. So since it's a multiplication function, I need to introduce another variable to hold the result. Okay, so it's like, I have to bring another box to keep the result. Okay, so here in this case int is the result, which is equal to what? X multiplied by y. X multiplied by y, don't forget a semicolon here. So this function here, I wanted to return always what? I wanted to return the multiplication of this parameters, right? So I wanted to return the result here. Okay, and again the semicolon. Let's see if I start the simulation here. Do you think something will appear here? Of course no. Why? Because I didn't initialize the serial communication here, and I didn't print anything here. So to do so, let's stop the simulation. In the setup, of course, always in the void setup we have to start the serial communication. How to start the serial communication? I've already explained it. You start with serial dot begin and then we want it to be in at a speed of 9600 bits per second. So even if I start the simulation here, do you think something will be here? Again, no. Why? Because I didn't print anything. I didn't use any line of code to print something here. Okay, so how can I print something here? Of course, I already explained it before. If you remember, it's serial dot print. Okay, so serial dot print, then we can pass something here. Okay, so in serial dot print, I can just recall this function here. Okay, so how can I call this function? I just write the function name. Okay, which is I write the function name here, and then again the parameters, right? So I have to put here the parameters I want. So it's x and y, and they should be integers. So I want this function to multiply 5 and 10. Okay, so the answer should present the multiplication of 5 and 10. So now let's start the simulation, and exactly here is our answer. So now you don't have to do all of this every time, right? Because only one line, when you call the function here, you just called it one time and it gives you the result. Okay, so let me check another value. Okay, so let me represent, if I want the multiplication to be 6 and or 56 and 7. Okay, again, zero and 10. Five and 5. And let's start the simulation. So as you can see, they are all in one line. If I wanted to represent a new line, I already explained it. You just add ln here. So I have to add the len also here. And then let's start the simulation. And as you can see here, I just called the function one time and I pass the numbers I want the function to multiply, and in each time it gives me different number. If I don't have the function, I have to repeat this every time, and I have to change the variable also every time. So now you can see the benefits of using function, and that's it.